Hi there, here we are in lesson 2, derive y equals mx. And the I can statement says, I can write the equation of a line given a graph or table of values. So let's look at the Spark Your Learning. Asaya's literature class is studying a new book. To complete the assigned reading on time, she has made a schedule. Asaya records her progress in a graph. So here's her graph. And again, make sure you look at the scale. Kind of notice the difference in the numbers, but that's an important way to do it sometimes. What can you interpret from the graph? So look at all the points that they've noticed and just kind of play with that. And then you can do the turn and talk if you want to do that. And then you can go on to the build understanding. All right, so let's look at the build understanding. Number 1, use the graph of Asaya's reading to answer the following questions. So let's look at A. The number of pages that Asaya has cumulatively read increases by how many pages per each one day? So just fill in that blank. And B, it says the graph shows that the number of pages that Asaya has read at the end of each day. Complete the table, including a general expression for the number of pages Asaya will read in X days. So once you've filled in the table here with these values, down at the bottom for X, they want you to write what this would be in terms of X. So instead of just writing, oh, this is Y, write Y in terms of X. So if you notice, let's say day 1, you can see over here on the graph that she's read 50 pages. And then day 2, you can kind of see, oh, look at day 2, she's read 100 pages. You'll see a pattern emerging and how many pages she reads each day. So how many times the number of days is the pages that she read, if that helps. C, use the variable y to stand for the number of pages that Asaya has read. Write an equation to model the number of pages read after X days. So you kind of are going to do that here. And so it'll be the same equation that you figured out there. D, from the point at 1 day to the point at 2 days, how much does the graph rise? So again, you'll go back over and look at 1 day, where is she? And then at 2 days, how many pages has she read? How much does that, what's the increase? E, what is the slope or rise over run for Asaya's graph? Explain your thinking. So you're going to kind of have to think back to lesson 1 and how do you figure out rise over run? And F, how is the slope related to the unit rate of this proportional relationship? So this is the unit rate here, pages read over reading days, and that'll give you the unit rate of that proportional relationship. G, look at the equation from part C. What do you notice about the equation when you compare it to the slope from part E? How are they similar? How are they different? What do you notice? H, Asaya decides that she wants to adjust her schedule so she will finish the book earlier than the due date. How will this change the slope? Explain your reasoning. So will it decrease the slope? Will it be steeper? How will it change? So go ahead and pause the video there and work on those. All right, now that you've finished the build understanding, let's look at the step it out. Don is a gifted wood carver. He has started selling his wood carvings online. He tracks the total number of carvings sold. So they give you a little table here of his progress of what he's sold. And then, so they say A, the ratio of carvings sold to months in business are or are not equal for each row of the table. So they want you to compare these ratios, 2 to 5, 6 to 15, 8 to 20, or you could go the other way, 5 to 2. So he sold 5 carvings in 2 months, 15 carvings in 6 months, 20 carvings in 8 months. So are those ratios the same? Are they equal? The relationship between the number of months in business and the number of carvings sold is or is not a proportional relationship. So depending on your answer here, you'll be able to answer this one. Remember, if those ratios are the same, then it is a proportional relationship. B, sketch the graph of the relationship described by the table. Explain how the line supports your conclusion from part A. So you're going to graph it here. The graph is a relationship. The graph of the relationship is or is not a straight line passing through the origin. So the relationship is or is not proportional. If it is a straight line passing through that origin, then you know that it is proportional. C, complete the rise over the run to find the slope of the line. And that'll be the unit rate of the rise over the run. Complete the linear equation to model Dawn's sales. And so here's where you'll write an equation in x y in terms of x. E, use the graph to predict the number of carvings sold after being in business for 10 months. So they're asking you to kind of continue this out. So they give you 2, 6, and 8 months, but what about after 10 months? How many carvings will he have sold based on what you see in that proportional relationship? So here, the vocabulary, a linear equation is an equation whose solutions form a straight line on a coordinate plane. And then in this last one, use the equation to predict the number of months needed for Dawn to sell 30 carvings. So they want you to use the graph here and the equation to make those predictions there. So I would pause there and then go on to number 3. So number 3, a digital thermometer records the temperature each hour. The graph shows how the temperature T has been changing each hour. So this line's a little different. The way it looks, the direction is a little different than what you've seen so far. So they say, A, describe how the temperature changes from midnight, H equals 0, to 3 a.m. And so they're telling you that it drops how many degrees. Between H equals 0 and H equals 3, describe the rise and run of the graph. So the rise is what, and the run is something else. You may have some negative numbers there, so that's going to be interesting. C, use the rise over run to write the slope of the graph. So this is what you've been doing previously. Write an equation of the line in the form T equals m times h. So the temperature equals the slope times the hours. So pause that, do number 3, and then you can go on to the check understanding. So here are the 2 pages for on your own. If you feel comfortable with your work on the check understanding and you feel good about what you're learning, go ahead and do these. And then again, if you're comfortable, this homework is optional, but do the test prep and the spiral review. So that's all for this lesson, and we'll see you in the next one.